Hello, I'm Dean Carter. I recently took part in the Shropshire Six Summits, or the Six Shropshire Summits, depending on how you wanna refer to it. Just a few days ago, June 2023, and I thought it might be good to just make a quick video talking about my experience doing it, what I thought went well, what I thought didn't, and maybe offer some tips to anyone thinking of doing the Six Shropshire Summits in the future. So I think just in general, I would say that I really enjoyed it. It was strenuous, like the organisers say. It's hard work. It's um, it's 36 miles of uh, walking on various surfaces, but a lot of road. And the uphills when they come can be a bit of a shock. But it's one of those things that a lot of people probably don't do very often in their lives. You know, some people do these things all the time, but if it's just something that you want to try just for a change, just to sort of challenge yourself, and it can be an amazing adventure, an amazing day. I'm not really going to go through any directions or anything specifically because that could take quite a long time because there's a lot to the route. When you apply to take part in the challenge, you will be given a list of directions from the organisers. And what I did is I used those directions on, and if it's this exact one, I don't think it is, but you know, it might be. But I used this Land Ranger map. It's quite an old one, it's been superseded, but I basically used a highlighter and I basically used the course instructions to mark out the route on this map, and then you can kind of follow that. The day, I don't know if this is the actual one I used. Oh yeah, there it is. I don't know if you can see that, but I used the green highlighter to mark out the route going by the directions. What I did last year, which I forgot to do this year, was I took photos of this in my phone, and I've got the Ordnance Survey app on my phone. And what I was able to do is to look at the route where I should be, and then look at the OS map. Use the location function on my phone to put me on the OS map, and then just make sure that I was on the route by comparing that to the photos of the route that I'd marked on this. The OS map app is very useful. If you're just using it like the free version, you'll only have like the basic mapping similar to Google Maps. But if you buy OS Maps now, they come with a little scratch-off panel and a code, and when you put that code into the OS app, it lets you download the digital version. But I think for this route, you only need one Land Ranger map, so you could buy that just for this challenge and then download the digital version. Or if you're going to use Explorer maps, which are a better scale, then you might need 2 or 3 of them. But I mean, the Land Ranger sufficed for me. It was good enough. Just my sort of my thoughts about the whole challenge from the beginning, without going into too much detail. I think I got to Clee Hill, Titterstone Clee car park at about 5:45, 10 to 6. There were a few people there, not too many. And then from about 6 o'clock onwards, I think people were getting on the coach. And then there were a few late arrivals, and then sometime after 6:15 the coach left, and then drove to Corndon Hill. Nice journey. When you get to Corndon Hill, if you're really doing this competitively, you might want to make sure you're at the front of the coach, or as close to the front as you can, because as soon as you get off the coach, that's it. Or at least this year. I don't know if they do it differently other years, but this year they checked everyone off on the coach before it left, so that when the coach got to Corndon Hill, as soon as you got off the coach, off you go. You know, straight down the track leading to Corndon Hill. So if you want to be one of the first, you know, to get going without too many people ahead of you, I would sit as close to the front of the coach as possible. If, like me, you just want to do it at a good time and you're not too fast, then obviously sit anywhere. But yeah, it basically starts as soon as you get off the coach at Corndon Hill. There's a fair walk down a track before you actually get to the start of Corndon Hill, and then it's very steep up Corndon Hill. A bit of a shock for first thing, a bit of a trial by fire. But it doesn't last too long. I would say it's about 10 minutes to get to the top of Corndon Hill. The good thing is, after all that uphill, you'll be like panting when you get to the top. You'll be pretty tired out, but you'll find that as soon as you get on the flat, you'll start to recover again. And if you wanted to, you could just carry straight on and go down Corndon Hill. You don't really need much time to recover. I mean, it probably does depend on how fit you are, but after finishing that ascent, you kind of sort of recover. I think most people recover quite quickly and you can carry on. But there's obviously the summit stone at the top, the trig point, where you can take photos. And then basically that section from Corndon Hill to Stiperstones is mainly some track, a lot of field walking, tiny bit of road. Not that far from Corndon to Stiperstones, it's only a few miles. I think it was 5 or 6. Then you get to Stiperstones, you get to the bog. There's a couple of ways you can go up to the track that goes up to Stiperstones. You can go, I think you go sort of to the right through the bog car park, and it's a nice sort of grass field bit, which I did this year. Or you could go to the left and just carry on, I think, around the road until you get to the sort of the gate where you walk up Stiperstones. Stiperstones is very rocky. The track soon becomes basically just rocks in the ground. You can't really go at a fair old speed on Stiperstones, and in some places, depending on which of the sort of small tracks you take, you are walking over just basically stones. They have to be careful. But you get to the top of Stiperstones, then you make your way to the checkpoint. They'll stamp your card. You'll see on the rocks behind where the checkpoint is, there'll be the trig point, the stone, right on top of the rocks, and you can't really get to it unless you climb up there, which I wouldn't advise. But it's there. When you come back, you sort of go back the way you came, but if you can sort of veer to the left and sort of avoid the people behind you coming to the checkpoint, you stay to the left, and then there'll be a track going left off Stiperstones, and then you start like a long road section to eventually the Long Mind via Rattling Hope and Bridges. The Long Mind, I found out the other day, when you're at the summit, I think it's Pole Bank on Long Mind, you can actually see the other 5 summits. You can see Corndon and Stiperstones behind you, and you can see Caradoc, which isn't that far away, and in the distance you should be able to see Brownclea and Titterstone. So that's probably quite a good opportunity for a panoramic shot. So from the top of Long Mind, there's a bit of track, and then you can either go down Carding Mill Valley, which is one route, or the Burway, which I've done both times now. This year when I did the challenge, and last year when I did the challenge on my own, when I was sort of wrecking it. It's a long downhill road section, the Burway, but I think it's probably quicker, and it's certainly more straightforward. Just be careful of traffic coming towards you and from behind you, because you do have to get off the road. Then it's down to Church Stretton, where there's the fire station, where you can get water, and you can also use the loos if you need to. From there, it's only a few miles to Caradoc. It's sort of to the main road across. Then there's like a sort of couple of lanes through a sort of residential area, and then a track. They sort of go right on a field into the trees at the bottom of Caradoc. There are a few tracks up Caradoc. This is where it can be confusing. When I did it on my own, I took one of the first ones, and it basically went sheer up the side of Caer Caradoc, very steep, very draining. What some people I noticed did this year is they actually carried on all the way down the track and then went up the way that you come down off Caer Caradoc. So they went up that way, got to the checkpoint, and then came back down again. I think that's a longer, and that can take a bit longer, that route. But I think it's a bit more gradual, possibly. But the route I took was sort of in between. You sort of ignore very rough tracks that go up sort of the sheer face, and you can see a sort of gate on the left. So you sort of pull open the gate, and then you'll see that it's fairly steep, but not too bad. And there'll probably be people on it, because I think it's the more popular of the routes. So you go up to the top. The checkpoint on Caer Caradoc will be from where you get to Caer Caradoc, it'll be like the opposite end. So you do have to sort of get to the top and then walk all the way, more or less all the way to the end. There'll be someone there to check you off, and then you sort of come back the way you came, and there'll be a track on the left going down off Caer Caradoc, sort of the opposite direction to Church Stretton. Then you've got, I can't remember the exact mileage, but it was 4 hours, so probably 12 miles, maybe more. I think it is probably more than 12 miles, probably more like 14 miles to Brown-Clee. So from Caer Caradoc you go, it is basically tracks, field and road, and this is where you do need to be checking your map quite a lot, because there's a lot of places where you can kind of go wrong and end up walking more than you want to do and spending more time than you want to do doing the route, because if you go wrong, you've then got to go back to get on track or find another way to get back onto the track from where you are. So this is where you need to be checking the map. And then there's you'll get to, like, I think it's Wenlock Edge, like the long ridge line of trees that you'll be able to see from Caer Caradoc, between Caer Caradoc and Brown-Clee, and that's where Roman Bank is. You'll walk up to there. I think there's a checkpoint on Roman Bank, and then you go over that. And this is like a sort of track through, like, by farms and then more fields. You'll eventually get to Tugford, and then from Tugford to Abden is quite a long road section, but it's also uphill. And then when you're getting really close to Abden, it gets very steep uphill, and it's like a real hard slog to actually get up to Abden, where there's another checkpoint. So that's something to be aware of. And then from Abden, I think you go left onto a track, and then you basically follow a road all the way to, I think you sort of partially up Brown-Clee, and then you get a gate, and you'll walk up proper track on Brown-Clee to the summit and the checkpoint. And then you're basically from Brown-Clee, you can see Titterstone-Clee, the finish where you started, in the distance, and it's only, I would say, about 5 miles away. There's a couple of routes you can take from Brown-Clee to Titterstone-Clee. There's a route which sort of bears left not long after you come off Brown-Clee, which goes via a pond, I think, like a large pond, and then through fields. But I've heard from a few people that the path here is indistinct, and it can be a bit overgrown, and there's no clear, there isn't even, I don't think, a stile where it should be, or the gate's closed that you can't open it, so you have to climb over it. So I would go for the right route, the right-hand route, which is following the Shropshire Way. It is, I think, slightly longer, and there are a couple of bits of it that are a bit tricky, a bit technical, where it sort of goes down a gully, but it's not too bad. And then basically you get to the main road, the same main road you'll get to going the other way, which can be very busy. There'll be vehicles flying along that, because I think it's national speed limit. But you've only got to turn left a few minutes, and then turn right by a pub, and then there's another checkpoint, the last checkpoint. And then it's pretty much plain sailing to Titterstone-Clee. The only real obstacle you've got then, bearing in mind your legs and feet are going to be very painful by now, the only obstacle you've got then is the climb up Titterstone Clee, which is one of the steeper ones. It's the last thing you want at that point of the day. But it is quite a steep climb. But you've just got to think, once I get to the top of this, that's it. There's no more climbing. It's just over the other side to the car park. You do have to walk along a bit to get to the trig point. The trig point. Don't think there was anyone there actually checking people off, but I mean, there's not really much point because you're practically at the finish. So even if you do miss out the trig point, you're not really missing out much. So that's probably why there's no one there. There's no checkpoint. And yeah, that's basically it. You go down the other side, you're back in the car park, and you're finished. That's kind of summarizing it a bit, but I mean, my opinion of the route is it's great. I think some of the views you get are absolutely fantastic, and you go through some lovely countryside. And obviously, you get 6 summits, which each have their own unique, beautiful views. It's like I said, it is strenuous, especially if you want to try and do a time of under 12 hours. Hard work. I mean, I was myself and the people I was walking with. We had some good navigators with us, so we didn't really go wrong, I don't think. And we were pretty much constant. Only stopped for a few minutes at a time at each checkpoint. Didn't hang around. Kept up a good pace all day, and it took us, I think, 11 hours 40 minutes. So there isn't really any time to hang around. I think like the limit's 14 hours, I think. So, you don't have to be fast, and you can hang around a bit, as long as you know you can do it within 14 hours. 14 hours, it's not too bad, really. That would have been another 2 hours 20 on top of what I did, and that would have allowed me to have walked a lot slower and take a few more breaks. Training-wise, what I did, ideally, I'd have liked a bit more time. I came back from holiday with about two and a bit weeks left for the challenge. I did a hike of about 12 miles 1 week, and then the next week I did, I think, 2 days. One day was 16 miles, the next day was 25 and a half. Then following week was the challenge, and I got through it. My legs were painful for about 3 days afterwards. We're only sort of just about getting back to normal now, and it's Wednesday. The challenge was Saturday. So I mean, again, everyone's different, obviously, but I would say training-wise, if you can do, ideally, if you could do like 4 or 5 hikes, maybe even more, building up from 10 miles to maybe up to like marathon length, 26 miles. I don't think you need necessarily to do more than that, because you might risk tiring your legs out. And I'm not an expert on fitness and hike, knowing what training you should do, but that's just from my experience, I think that would probably be the best way to approach it. What to take with you? I would dress comfortably. I would dress how you would if you're hiking or if you're running even. A lot of people wear, shorts, t-shirt, depending on what the weather's like. You're used to wearing, hiking trousers and hiking boots, that's fine. As long as footwear, obviously, you want to be wearing footwear that you've broken in, that you're used to, and you can walk several miles in without giving you any problems. I was wearing my running shoes that have been properly broken in, but I also, if I'm doing any long distance, I also put Vaseline on the toes of my feet. I had a kind of hard section, like a bit of hard skin on my right foot, so I put some zinc oxide tape over that because I knew that might rub. If there's any parts of your feet that you think might rub, putting some zinc oxide tape on them should prevent blisters. Or you could put Vaseline, like I put Vaseline on the heels of my feet as well. Which helps prevent rubbing. I wore 2 pairs of socks. Help reduce the friction because it's 36 miles. You can also take with you some zinc oxide tape and some plasters, just in case your feet get sore spots on the way. Water, I had a bladder in my pack that had 2 litres in, and then I had 2 bottles a side of the pack, also with a litre in. Probably a bit too much. I think you can get away with, say, 2 1-litre bottles, or like a 2-litre bottle, like an empty drinks bottle, whatever you want to take. And you can refill them at checkpoints. So the checkpoints will have water where you can refill. But I definitely wouldn't have any less than 2 litres on me, just in case, because there are some like the first section to Church Stretton. I don't think there are any checkpoints where you could refill with water. So that's like 13 or 14 miles where you really do need to rely on whatever you've got with you. After that, you should be able to refill. Food. I had too much food with me, definitely. I had a lot of sort of snacks and like chocolate bars and things like that. And I only ate about half of them. It's difficult to say. My appetite sort of gets a bit weird when I do things like this. I don't know whether I'm hungry or not a lot of the time. But I had a sandwich at lunchtime. I quickly ate a sandwich at Church Stretton. And again, they had biscuits at the checkpoints, but they won't give out sort of, they don't have a huge selection of food because obviously the limited funds. But yeah, I would take your own food. Protein bars are good because obviously good to take in protein while you're doing something like this. I had a couple of protein drinks with me that helped. Talking about going back to navigation, I was quite fortunate that at the start of the walk, there were 2 guys, one of whom had done this, I think, several years in a row, so he knew the route really well. He didn't need a map; he just had it memorised. A couple of bits where he wasn't sure, but basically he knew exactly where to go most of the time. So I sort of followed them unofficially until eventually they sort of said, "Do you get the feeling that someone's following us?" Like joking me. And I sort of followed them on and off for the first half of the day, and then by the end of the day there were 4 of us. The lady joined us, and yeah, by the time we finished, we were a sort of 4-person team. But if you're doing this on your own, and you know there's someone like at the beginning, or you sort of come across someone on the route who knows what they're doing, if you can follow them and they don't mind, I would advise doing that, because then that will save you the navigation then. There probably will be people when you do it who know the route and you don't need to navigate, they just remember it. And if they don't mind you following them, then it saves you time, obviously, referring to maps and stuff. But also, definitely have the means to navigate yourself in case you are on your own, because you could be at a checkpoint and then you may get sort of left behind by the person you're following, or they may be a certain distance ahead and they may suddenly disappear around a corner and you don't know where they've gone. So definitely be able to navigate if you're on your own. I think that's it. I can't really think of anything else right now. You will need, when you get your card, you should be sent your card when you apply, and it'll have the different summits and checkpoints on it. You will need to make sure you have that with you on the day, and you can produce it every time you get to a checkpoint, because they'll need to stamp it to say that you've been there. Don't be late getting to the start, obviously, because the coach will leave at a set time, and they probably won't be hanging around for people. That'll be the end. It'll be terrible to be left behind. Yeah, but if there are any questions that you have, bearing in mind I'm not an expert, but I have completed it. Let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them if I can. I'll do my best. If I don't know the answer, I'll see if I can find out. And if you are planning on doing the 6 Shropshire summits in the future, then good luck. Enjoy it. That's the important thing. And I may see you there, because I may be back. I know when I was doing it this year, I was thinking never again, because it was painful. But I knew even then that a few days after a few days had gone by and the pain had gone, I'd probably be thinking, I wouldn't mind doing that again next year. The mind forgets, but the body remembers. I think that's how it goes. Please do comment if you have any questions. Thanks for watching and take care. I have to edit this bit because I can't think what to say now.